It's about to get Gabby AF.
We about to get Gabby AF, Gabby AF. We about to get Gabby AF, Gabby AF.
Welcome, my friends, back to another episode of Gabby AF. A lot to unpack this week. We are officially a week away from the Royal Rumble, my favorite pay-per-view of all time. I'm so excited. I will be in Indy to attend the Royal Rumble, my first ever. I'm hyped out of my mind about it. But before we get into any of that, we do have to discuss some of the stuff that happened this week because, as usual, it has been a crazy busy week in pro wrestling. So it's just me chatting with my friends today, which are you guys, because we are a community, a Gabby AF community. And we are going to have a good time just chatting it up today. Me and I have producer Tony from Connecticut on the line with me as well.
What? Look at that. How'd that happen? Balloons.
Balloons for producer Tony. I get nothing, but it's fine.
I don't even know how that happened. Look at that.
So let's start. We're going to get into a bunch of different things that I want to chat about from this week. One of the big things I do want to hit on is the women's division and Bayley from Raw. Another episode of Raw on Netflix this week, coming off of Monday night. I don't know if you guys also know this, but I have just jumped on Jonathan Coachman's new show, Behind the Turnbuckle, which is going to be Monday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, right after Monday Night Raw, where we'll hit some stuff on Raw, hit some stuff, not only Raw, but kind of the biggest things maybe from SmackDown as well. We'll kind of get into it. It just premiered this past Monday night, and it's with Stadium. You can actually watch it on DirecTV, Apple TV, all those kinds of cool things. And yeah, it's a great... Coach is awesome. It's also Tommy Carlucci, who's used to work for the WWE like 25 years or something like that. He's got great experience. And it's just a fun show. You guys can actually catch it on YouTube as well. But yeah, we talk about those kinds of things. So definitely hop onto that if you want. I know everybody loves Coach. So it's a fun time. It's cool. We actually interviewed Joe Hendry, who, as you guys know, just won the TNA title at Genesis on Sunday, which was impeccably awesome. I'm so happy for Joe Hendry. We had him on Gabby AF about 6 months ago, and there's no one I could be happier for getting the championship because that man has worked his ass off in the pro wrestling business. And I know he called out John Cena. He actually brought up his Cena interview, like his Cena moment first with me on Gabby AF, where he talked about the fact that when he was 15 years old, he talked on the phone with John Cena for a few minutes. And that's like his end goal of who he wants to be in a ring with. And I mean, it's John Cena's retirement tour this year. Can we see the crossover of Cena going to TNA and challenging Joe for the TNA championship? It would be epic. It would be a great thing, but will we see it? I'm not sure. I'm going to get into that a little bit more deeper into the show as well. But what I want to hit on first and foremost is Bayley, because we go into Monday and there's, Adam Pearce talks about Bayley's officially on Monday Night Raw now. We see her doing a backstage interview with Kathy Kelly where she says, yeah, I'm excited to be on Raw. I am now officially on the Raw roster. And she gets interrupted by Nia Jax, who we all know is not on the Raw roster. She is part of SmackDown because we've been fueled into this emotional storyline between Nia and Miss Tiffany Stratton. And they have the history. Like, this has been happening since SummerSlam, so it's been months now. It's been building. Tiffany turned on her for the championship when she cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase. So that's the feud I think I'm going to be buying into now that Tiffany's champion. It's going to be Tiffany and Nia. But Nia's been prying on Bayley. We saw it last week when she showed up in Bayley's hometown, kind of taunting her a little bit. And then Nia not only comes after Bayley, but attacks Rhea Ripley at the jump of Raw. So for me, I'm like, why are we seeing so much Nia? And why are you making such a big deal about Bayley being on Raw and making it now she's changed when Nia's not on Raw, but she's showing up to Raw anyway? So it's kind of like blurred lines, I feel like, when it comes to the rosters and going back and forth. And listen, I don't hate it. I think it's great to see the crossover. I actually enjoy it. But what I don't really understand is why are you making such a big deal about Bayley now being on the Raw roster if we're kind of letting people go back and forth? And
yeah, I mean, they kind of brought up this concept. They kind of moved away from the draft aspect of things, and they switched it to transfer window, which is soccer fans, you and I both are. That's kind of a cool new take on being able to move talent from roster to roster. And I guess it still kind of annoys me a little bit that, again, once you're on a roster, you can still just show up on the other show.
I like it. I like the surprise of it. I really do. It doesn't bother me. I just then don't make it a big deal when someone changes roster.
I'm on
And
Raw
here-
now. It's
Right.
but I'm still on SmackDown.
Which it's Bailey too. Bailey's a top star, so like I get it. And this is my other thing with it. Like I don't like that they made it a big deal that she was on Raw, and then she has this match with Nia, and she loses clean. In what world is that makes sense for her? And I've said this about Bailey. I think Bailey is as big of a star as she is, and we look at her and she's one of the top, and I think she's one of the best wrestlers in the women's division in the WWE. I'm not the biggest fan of the Bailey booking in the past year. I didn't really love her championship run. I was so high on Bailey winning the Rumble last year. I had predicted it. We had her on the show the week before, and I was excited for her. And I was like, okay, finally Bailey's going to get this run. And then she lost it at SummerSlam, and I was kind of like, on her entire run. And I was like, maybe they'll pick it up for her after. She'll come back or like whatever. And they just kind of haven't really like jumped on the Bailey train as much as I wish they could or should have, because I love Bailey so much and I think she's so great. So like I would have changed the way that match went with Nia. Like I understand having Nia looking strong, but like I think it just made Bailey so weak to lose clean the way she did. You had this whole buildup that she's on Raw, and her first match on Raw, she loses clean, blank, just to Nia Jackson. Like it was the buildup for Nia and Rhea because Rhea came out and they, producers had to break them up, and you had to hype it up for Saturday night's main event between Nia and Rhea. But I think it could have been differently, Tony. And if you want to hear what I would have done different, I'm going to tell you. Even if you don't want to hear it, I'm going to tell you.
I do want to hear it. I mean, there's so many ways you could have gone with that. You had Roxanne there. You had the interaction. Right. I mean, one thing you know what always bothers me with any wrestling show, not just this particular Raw. You have a show, if we're pretending this is a sporting event, we've booked the arena, we've booked the show, we've got our matches, but there's always just hey, I don't like you. Well, I don't like you. Well, I'll see you in the ring. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. You got the general manager, you got the TV, you got the producer, you got the director. You're breaking up the schedule. You might have cut someone else's match. I just always find that that part I can't dive into, but yeah, no, they always seem to treat Bailey like the fallback option because they know the fans love her and they know they don't have to worry. She's always going to have a great match, cut a great promo, probably sells a lot of merch, but they're never all in with her, which is frustrating when I feel like the fan base sees her as top 2, top 3 on the roster, but clearly they always view her a little bit lower in the pecking order and want to elevate someone else. So no, I mean, what do you think you could have done differently that would have both built the matchup for Nia and Rhea on Saturday night's main event, as well as keep Bailey strong and not have her taking a loss?
I'm so glad you asked, Tony, because this is what if I could have wrote just differently, and this is just my take and my opinion, but you have Roxanne there. You know what I mean? There's been words between Roxanne and Bailey. Obviously, I think Roxanne's coming to the main roster. I think we're going to see her at the Rumble and she's going to show up. And then I think this feud between Bailey and Roxanne is going to be either most likely seen on Raw now that Bailey is on Raw. And I think it's going to be a great feud for both of them. I'm really enjoying it. I like Roxanne a lot. I think you had during the match, Bailey walk over to Roxanne while she's in the crowd and be like, oh, taunt her a little bit. And of course, Roxanne went to hit her. Bailey got the block, and then Bailey hits her across the face, and Roxanne loses her mind, and security has to take her out. Whatever. That's a nice little blip because it shows that they kind of have this tension between them. I think instead of having Bailey lose clean, you have Roxanne come out of nowhere just when Bailey's about to get the win over Nia or get the upper hand. Have Roxanne come in with a distraction, cost her the loss. And then it's not like, oh, Bailey's losing clean. There was something that happened, an interference, distraction, whatever, that made her lose. And then just have Nia and Roxanne kind of going at Bailey, beating the shit out of her, where now, boom, Rhea's music hits and Rhea's still pissed at Nia. Because, by the way, when there were the words that Nia went against Bailey last week in her hometown, Rhea came out and it was Rhea and Bailey standing there at the end of it, kind of looking at each other like, thanks for helping me out, like, blah, 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 blah. So, like, it's not that big of a stretch that Rhea would come out to help and Rhea would come out against Nia because she's pissed off at Nia for attacking her from the beginning of the night. So, at that point, I think you can have Roxanne and Bayley either take it out of the ring and they're fighting it off to the end, blah, 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 building up their feud to show how much they dislike each other. And then you have Rhea and Nia going at it, trying to make this brawl happen, blah, 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 like they hate each other. And then you announce their, match coming up on Saturday night. That way, every little feud and rivalry or tension is still there between the women it's supposed to be between, but no one looks like a weak loser at the end of it. Like Bayley doesn't come out looking weak. And I think that was a way that it could have been done a little bit better, a little bit more to protect the people that needed to be protected while still promoting which matches were coming up and which fights were happening and which rivalries were being taken place. Because I think, like I said, with Rumble coming up, it was necessary to bring Nia onto Raw for Rhea and for Bayley because we don't unfortunately have a big heel on the women's Raw roster right now. We just don't. Like, I was looking at the roster being like, oh, who else is going to challenge Rhea? Now that Liv-In Rhea's feud is most likely finished, the only other person I think that would make sense in a storyline with Rhea right now, if there's no changes of things happening, is Raquel Rodriguez. But we need time for that to happen because I love Raquel as a heel, and I think Raquel's strength and stature against Rhea's is always money because they're both so strong, and they both have the history from NXT together, from the feuds they've already had together. So, like, I do see that being a thing down the line, but Raquel has to turn on Liv first, and that's a whole nother story in and of itself because she's in this faction. She's with the new Judgment Day. So I think that's really the only thing that I could get into to become a big storyline. But besides that, there's really nothing. There's nobody that would have attacked Rhea on Raw Monday night where I would have been like, oh, this makes sense. Besides Nia, because no one's getting the heat that she's getting. So I understand why they did it. And like I said, it's a week from the Rumble. We're going to get new people showing up. We're going to get people from NXT, I'm sure. Hopefully, most likely Charlotte, Becky. I don't know where Asuka's been. We missed the Asuka heel. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to be getting these people coming back where we can build off these storylines for hopefully WrestleMania. But I think that's why they had to include her on Monday night because, you kind of have to fill in this time until the Rumble is back and we have all these new storylines. So I get why it happened. I just wish Bayley would have been handled a little bit differently. And that was my big thing on it. And I say this all the time. I'm like, justice for Bayley because she is one of those horsewomen, and she's one of those people from NXT, one of the best wrestlers on the roster, and I just want to see better for her.
I think it's just, I mean, like you said, I think they're just kind of treading water until Rumble when obviously they want to bring back a number of big names and they want to hold out for the surprise. So obviously then they're going to ramp up and kind of gear towards WrestleMania. I just think it's like you had this big storyline with Nia and Tiffany, right? Like, when's she going to turn on her? When's she going to turn on her? When's she going to cash in? And she does. And then we never get the one-on-one match after Tiffany.
Do you think we're still not going to get it? Because I think we'll still get it.
We'll still get it, but it's like such a weird, like, do I care anymore is the question. Because now you've already downshifted from that. Nia has taken the loss so badly and is so mad at Tiffany, she decided to go to Raw and attack Rhea and fight Bayley. Like, do I care anymore? And now where does that kind of leave Tiffany? Because, I mean, I know she just had a great match with, kind of a babyface match with her and Bayley on SmackDown, where there was like the kind of a mutual sign of respect after on social media. So now you have to set up a story for Tiffany with a week before Rumble, unless you're just not having her wrestle at Rumble, which is entirely possible. Seems like a bad idea, but you want to kind of capitalize on her momentum because she's, your next big women's star, her and Chelsea Green.
I mean, listen, we're recording this before we watch SmackDown, obviously, because it's coming out before SmackDown. So maybe something will happen this SmackDown, even though it's the week before the Rumble, and we'll see that maybe they could build something quickly for her to have a match. So that's all up in the air. And like I always say this when it comes to WWE, I'll be like, oh, I'm not really into something. And then we get to the show, and I watch it, I'm like, fuck, that was such a good match. And like, that was really good. So like, I try not to judge so quickly beforehand because they've proven me wrong so many times. But like I said, I think the Rumble, and this is why the Rumble is my favorite show, I think it really puts such a difference on this road to WrestleMania that we have, because the people that come back, we never know what that rivalry is going to happen, because whoever wins the Rumble, on the women's side can challenge whatever champion they want. So do we need to have Tiffany to have somebody right now? No, because whoever's going to win the Rumble, maybe is going to go after Tiffany. And like to build up that storyline could be way bigger than anything else. And things can change so quickly. Like, and I say this all the time, like they're showing these promos for Charlotte. Like I miss Charlotte Flair so damn much. And I cannot wait for her to come back. I'm like drooling at the bit, like chomping at the bit for her to come back because the women's division needs her and they need Becky and they need Asuka. And as much as they are building stars, I think they did a great job with Tiffany Stratton. Obviously there's been some injuries for other NXT people that have been brought up, like Kiana James was the one you had mentioned as well. Like I think she could be a major player. Obviously she got hit with the injury bug and there's time we'll have to tell with that. Same thing with Jade Cargill. Like I think Jade is a massive muscle. And like when we saw her at the Rumble last year, the pop she got and the stare down she had was epic. But she is injured right now. We don't know when she's coming back. So like the Rumble answers a lot of questions and puts a lot of things into place where it makes my thinking completely change no matter what happens. Because there's going to be surprises. I think we're going to see Jordan Grace show up. Where is she going to be put into the storylines of things? Like there's so many questions. Same thing with Becky. Like we haven't seen Becky for a while. Everyone's like, where's Becky Lynch? Alexa Bliss is being rumored. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things. Like I just feel like the story's not even been pen to paper yet about WrestleMania. So things can change at any time, but I can't wait to see Charlotte back. I actually think Charlotte's going to win
the Rumble.
The Rumble.
Okay.
I wouldn't hate it if she did, because I think we need her back in the title picture as quickly as possible. What is your problem?
You know, I don't agree. I'm not.
Who do you think's going to win the Rumble?
Oh, I mean, Charlotte's not a bad pick at all to get her back in the main event.
I also predicted Bayley last year and she won it, so and I predicted Cody. I was 100% on my predictions for the Rumble last year.
You should go to Vegas. Oh wait, we are going to Vegas.
Well, that's Mania. That's different. I'm not going to be betting there. I don't gamble. I don't have much money, so I don't gamble it when I have it.
What story? Charlotte for me has always been someone that, for all her talent and pedigree, has felt crammed down my throat as a fan, whether I want it or not. And obviously, I think they have eyes on getting her the Ric Flair 16 world title, accomplishment. If the story makes sense and you tell a great story, I can buy in. But just when I hear the name, I'm just like, man, I'm gonna have to be force fed some Charlotte Flair, and she's gonna dominate my TV.
Here's my question for you, Tony, because I see a lot of, I call them trolls, but people on social media every time Charlotte's back, right? Too much Charlotte, too much Becky, oversaturated. We see them too much. They're being crammed in my throat. Do you not think that the women's roster right now needs a Charlotte back, misses a Charlotte? And like, I'm being 100, and you can answer honestly, doesn't mean you have to love her, but you don't think that it needs someone of that caliber to be in these matches when there's not people on the roster that can do what she's doing?
Oh, of course. No, any roster could use a Charlotte Flair and benefit. I think here's the thing we've run into with the women's division, and now hopefully with an Intercontinental title and a U.S. title for the women. I mean, historically, they've not built a whole lot of non-title storylines. So it's always been Charlotte and Becky for the title, and the rest of the roster, like we don't really care what they're doing or what they're fighting over. They're just having random matches. So are you bringing Charlotte back? Are we telling a good story that necessarily doesn't need the title? I mean, obviously you want to put her in the title picture. She's always going to be in the title picture. She's Charlotte Flair. But can we organically tell more women's stories where it doesn't necessarily predicate on Charlotte and Becky and the world title and everything else gets forgotten about? You know what I mean?
Listen, I think so. I just think it makes the title picture look bigger when they are attached to it. If you put, people like to compare Tiffany Stratton to a Charlotte Flair because she's blonde, she's fit, she's great in the ring. So you're going to tell me if you don't bring Charlotte back and she's like, oh, Tiff, everyone says you're the younger version of me, doesn't mean you can beat me, like blah, blah, blah. Build the emotion in that sense and make Charlotte this mega heel and Tiffany's like this new up-and-comer that they're comparing to, and she's chasing the title. And by the way, Charlotte doesn't have to win to get Tiffany over either. Like that's where I feel for these veterans, because you put on a banger of a match between Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair and Tiffany retains. You don't think that makes Tiffany 10 times more valuable to people to watch? And like, that's why I like a Charlotte and Becky, because they might be in the title picture. They don't always have to win for them to be good in the run that they're having. It's what they bring to the table, because they're the people you want to beat right now. Tiffany's great, but for Tiffany to beat a Charlotte in a WrestleMania match, you're going to tell me that wouldn't make her 10 times better? 100% it would. So you could build the emotion with her and somebody else, and that could be a great match, but it's still not her beating Charlotte Flair. It's still not her beating Becky Lynch. It's still not her retaining against these people. So I think it's needed for them to even, have those check marks against them or with them as a champion. And by the way, I still think that there is legs for the epic rivalry between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, and with no title attached to it, nothing, because of the personal experience, the emotions, the memories of just what they've been through. Like I always say, I would still buy into the Becky Lynch Charlotte Flair rivalry, and you don't even need to put a title on it, and I'm emotionally invested in it.
I think you hit on that right there. That's I think the move. I think you've stumbled upon it, because 2 nights of WrestleMania, right? You got to fill the card.
Right.
Let's get a nice balance of women's matches again.
I can't see right now though them not being in, either one of them not being involved in a title picture at WrestleMania.
They're going to have a face. I feel like they're going to have, if they're both in the Rumble, they're going to have a face down in the Rumble, right?
Sure, but I mean 100%. We also don't know. Maybe they'll have some veterans coming back. I think. Let's be real. Nikki Bella showing up at the Raw Netflix is not the last time we're seeing Nikki Bella in the WWE. I don't care, and I'm saying it right now. I think Nikki Bella is showing up in the Rumble.
Oh.
I just think she looks too good. She was happy to be there. Everybody was happy to see her. For people to think that was a one-off and she's just showing up to be like, hi, it's Raw Netflix, I'm showing up for the red carpet. Absolutely not.
She'll be back.
I'm telling you, I think we're going to see Nikki Bella back in the ring, in a WWE ring. And I think we're going to see it at Rumble in a week. And will she win? I don't think so. But is it the last time we're going to see her? Absolutely not. That's my opinion on it.
What other surprises do you think we're going to see in the Rumble? I got some thoughts on who we're going to see, but
like surprises, or just people
like
that aren't
surprises, like people that aren't on TV or maybe not under contract. Who are you hoping to see show up? I guess.
I mean, I'm always listen. I think Nikki Bella is going to show up. I think it's clear Jordynne Grace is going to show up. I'm hoping that Jade will be back. I would love, I say this all the time, we say this all the time. I would love to see Mickie James show back up. I think it's pretty amazing. I miss seeing Mickie James on my television screen. I think, I know there was the announcement about that show coming out, that Legend show that she's doing with Taker and Booker T and Bully. I think that's going to be fucking awesome. I think it's going to be a huge, successful show. But Mickie is still in shape to do it. People love her. She's, sorry. I think Aldis would love to see her back, her nice hubby that's there. I would love to see Mickie James just walk in, hardcore country to hit, and she comes back in because she can still do it.
I would love to see, because I know Trish is going to be in town. Mickey's going to be in town.
Yeah, Trish for sure.
We've seen the tag division, to me, needs a little refresh for the women, right? We're not really talking about the women's tag division a whole lot these days. What if you put some of these like legendary names together and use that to like fortify your tag division? Maybe imagine a Becky Charlotte Lynch super team, or a Trish Mickey.
I like them better against each other.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, but that's a story we can tell, and we've been telling. It's 2025. Let's tell something new again. Let's get some eyeballs. Let's do a tag tournament. Let's get some dream teams together.
Well, I think also we'll definitely see some NXT talent at the Rumble, like we did last year as well. I'm telling Roxanne's definitely showing up. I think possibly Cora, Jade, even though she said she wants a TNA title from Masha. Will we see Masha show up as the TNA Women's Champion again? Like what they did with Jordan, what they've done with Mickie, kind of like for the pop, and then follow that storyline between her and Cora because of this big partnership between TNA and WWE right now, which is epic. I think so. And let's, I don't even get me started on Joe Hendry, because I think for 100,000% Joe Hendry is going to show up at the Men's Royal Rumble, and he's going to get a massive pop, and he's going to go eye to eye with John Cena, because that's what he wants. And I think that people would love to see it. That's a whole nother story, because on the men's side of it, and by the way, what I love what they're doing with the Rumble this year is they're not giving away a lot.
No.
Which is how it should be. Fucking surprise me.
I think you can go, God, we kind of, Joe Hendry finally winning the TNA World title, maybe about 3 or 4 months after it probably should have happened, but we're finally there.
Listen, as long as we get to the end.
We got there.
Yeah. And by the way, Nick Nemeth was a great champion, and I thought their match was really great. Nick is great in the ring, so, like, I don't hate it. Maybe we'll see. Like, that would be crazy, too, for Nick Nemeth to show up at the Rumble after all his history.
But does he come out as Nick Nemeth or Dolph Ziggler?
Well, he comes out as Nick Nemeth. He's still with TNA.
Is he here to show he's not here to show the world? I just wonder now, with this new WWE TNA partnership, how much are we going to see in terms of crossovers like a Joe Hendry, or, like you said, maybe a John Cena, possibly on his retirement tour? Why not? You know what I would love to see in a TNA ring in 2025? John Cena and AJ Styles.
Well, AJ Styles is the big one for sure.
Yes.
And,
that's the fact that that's even possible to say is insane.
It's a beautiful thing. And, when the news broke, I think even on social media, like, the amount of people commenting about it and talking about it, it was such a cool moment in pro wrestling to just be like, wow, this is going to bring such amazing, like, I was even thinking about the matchups that are possible now are so cool to think about and so exciting to think about. And it makes me more excited for the Rumble, because I'm like, how many TNA talent are we going to show up? And it doesn't only have to be the champions, because I think that there are people in TNA that I would just love to see, standing across the ring with people from WWE, just from their size, from their style of, like, matches and stuff, people that have been in both. Like, it's a really cool thing, and it opens up the door for a lot of talent, which I like. And it just brings more eyes on both products, because I've been saying this forever. TNA is such a good product, and people are sleeping on it. Their storylines are good. Their wrestling is great. The Knockouts division is awesome. It's so good. The women's division there is so great. Gail does such a good job, and, like, what Jordan has done from when she became champion to where she is now is massive. What Mickey's done, what Deonna Purrazzo did in the Knockouts division. Like, you can't tell me women like that haven't changed the game in women's pro wrestling. So I just think it's so cool to see for the possibilities. I just like to think about the possibilities. It's just massive. And that's why I'm more excited for the Rumble, because I'm like, I think they're going to just show up, and I think people are going to be shocked. We're going to have NXT, we're going to have TNA, we're going to have WWE, like, people coming back. I can't wait for the pop for Charlotte, for if Becky comes back at it, Alexa Bliss. You know what I mean? We still haven't seen Carmella in forever. I don't know when these people are coming back. And, like, listen, I love Carmella. I'm very big on, like, someone was saying, when Carmella comes back, how interesting it'll be with Carmella and Chelsea, because they were a tag team for a little bit and they were super entertaining. I like people like that. And listen, everything Chelsea Green is doing is just amazing. I think if Matt Cardona does not show up at the Royal Rumble, it's a massive miss. Massive. Because the pop he would fucking get walking into that Men's Royal Rumble would be huge. And it will be huge if it happens. And I think it should happen, but I'm not a booker. I'm not a writer, so I can't say so. But, like, he changed the game. Matt Cardona's done has been unbelievable. What he continues to do is unbelievable. Like, I just think the fact that might happen as well. It's just, I just think it's so cool. It's an exciting time, and this is why I love the Royal Rumble and I talk about it. And the fact I'm going to my first Royal Rumble in a week is super exciting, because I'm going to be screaming like a child the same way everybody else is, and you never know what you're going to get. It's just like me.
Exactly.
You never know what personality I'm going to have today. I got about 20 different ones, and each minute it changes.
if there's one thing we as a country can all be proud of right now, it's that we have Chelsea Green as our United States champion.
Oh my God, Chelsea Green till I die.
Chelsea Green.
I pledge allegiance to Chelsea Green.
Hand over my heart.
If there's anything I know in life, in Chelsea Green we trust.
I trust in Chelsea Green, and I trust in Matt Cardona. Again, that guy is everything pro wrestling that's great about pro wrestling. The man isn't even signed to a major company, but I feel like it doesn't matter what show I'm watching.
Right.
There's the possibility that he's going to show up and he's going to be the most talked about part of it. and he always,
Always ready. He's always
ready. He's the complete Matt Cardona. I can't get enough Matt Cardona on my screen. I love seeing him show up in AEW. I love seeing him show up in TNA. I love seeing him show up in GCW. And God, the complete. I mean, I guess technically not complete the year. We're in a new year, but now to cap that off with showing up at the Rumble as Matt Cardona, and that would be a massive pop. And really, I don't see how if he shows up at Rumble, I don't see how WWE doesn't lock him in after seeing the reaction he gets. And maybe
I was
we
shocked
have
he
Matt
wasn't
Cardona
offered
from
anything
home.
by AEW, and he said he wasn't after his match against and the build up that he had with Jericho and the pop he got when he came out at Ring of Honor. I was shocked by that, but I don't own a company. I don't know why decisions are made that way. So maybe
2025 is going to be a big year for AEW because they really need to have a look in the mirror, soul reflection on what they want to accomplish as a company. And
listen, they have the talent.
It's
not that they
don't.
They have, you know what I mean? Money. And that's the first step is you have the talent. Your rosters are stacked with talent. I just want to see more of it. And I
want to see this dark cloud that's over AEW be lifted. I want to see them get back to what made them such a hot company when they debuted.
It's giving fans what we loved about them. You know what I mean? Like when AEW first started, I was like, this is a company for me. You
for
know
the fans.
Like,
it was for the fans. Now it does not feel like it's for the fans or for the wrestlers it seems like it's for one person.
Yeah. Listen, they had something positive that did come out of Dynamite this week was Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin winning the tag titles, which I absolutely love to see because I think that Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin were heavily slept on when they did work for WWE. They're massive talents. I don't know how you look at the two of them and you're not like, oh my God, put the titles on them immediately. They're fucking beasts. Shelton Benjamin, when we had him on the show, I think he said, what did he say? He was celebrating his 25th year in the business this year.
And he still moves around
better than half the people I watch on television.
Still incredible.
And his just the way he is, and he's incredible. Bobby Lashley, I don't even think has 1% body fat on him. He's like a fucking transformer. It doesn't even make sense to me. And then you have MVP, who's MVP. You know what I'm saying? Just on every syllable they hit it. So I'm glad they won. It is a shame because I don't think Private Party in their reign had the build that they should have had. And I don't think it ends for them here, maybe continue the rivalry or whatever. But unfortunately, you have Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin together. You can't not make them the champions. It's just one of those things. What are they going to do? Be chasing the championship for a year? Absolutely not. It's just one of those things when they're available and that's the talent you have. That's what you got to do with it. And I'm excited for them because they're, now they're champions and they should have been champions for a much longer time than they were where they were. But I'm going to say what I've always said about Shelton Benjamin. I think he's heavily underrated and I want to see him turn on Bobby at some point and somehow get a title run for a world championship himself. I want him to be a singles player in something by himself because I think he hasn't had that opportunity in a very long time and I think he can handle it. And I want to see him. Obviously, Tommy, every time I do this, I hear Tommy Dreamer in my head, they just won. You want to break them up already? You're already booking. And I do this because I'm an impatient person and I think ahead. But living in the moment, I'm very happy for them as tag team champions. But I'm excited for this to be a year for Shelton Benjamin where he breaks off alone and beats the shit out of everybody in his path. And there's so many people on the roster I want Shelton to have matches with that I think would be fucking phenomenal matches. Give me Shelton Will Hobbs, you know what I mean? Give me Shelton Wardlow. Just have him beat up all these big fucking names. Let him beat Bobby. Let him beat Swerve. Hangman. I just want to see this for him because he can do it. Because we're not going to get that much more time with him. These older veterans, how much time do they have? Not on Earth. I'm talking about in the ring. I'm going to text Sheldon and be like, by the way, I was just saying, you're not old, but I fuck with him all the time. I'm friends with him, guys. I can say these things. You know what I mean? But I think he needs one more singles push before we don't see him in the ring anymore. Because there's so many young talents building up right now that if you're going to push these veterans, push them in a way where they're going to end it and be happy with the endings that they have in these careers that they built for themselves.
TNA 2025. Now, we talked about, we've seen probably the goodbye of Jordan Grace. The women's knockouts division over the last 2-3 years. I mean, you went from having probably the best women's roster in the world between, again, like Jordan and Mickey and Deanna and Trinity, Naomi, Tasha Steeles. I mean, Rosemary. I mean, you just had just up in that tie about that division has taken more hits due to how great it was. Obviously, when you're TNA and you have that level of talent on your roster, the AEWs and WWEs are going to come calling. Where do you see them now in 2025 having to they seem to be in a little bit of a refresh period. Obviously, the WWE deal helps a great deal in terms of attracting talent. But now, on both sides, the men's and the women's part of the roster, we're seeing them have to kind of adjust with their big stars moving on. What do you think TNA has to do to kind of keep that momentum? I mean, we're looking at the pictures from the pay-per-view from Genesis. Oh my God, they're filling out these arenas.
Right.
And probably in terms of buzz have never been hotter in the last decade. Now you have Tessa Blanchard. What does that do to the positive, the momentum? Does that hinder you? Are you building around Tessa? Who are you hoping to see in TNA? Let me if you had the ability to make TNA 2025 the promotion, you can make it. What are you doing?
You need to get these girls everywhere. If I'm in charge, that's just like my opinion. I think that Masha is so good in the ring, and I need to know more about her, because if you're now tuning into TNA because you watch WWE and you watch NXT, why should you care about any of these women? That's the big question. Why? Why do I care? Right? How much do you know about Masha? I got to interview Masha when I worked Women's Wrestling Army backstage interviewing, and her story is fucking amazing. And she's so great. She should be champion, and she is. And I think her story, like, she needs to emotionally connect with the fan base for them, not the TNA fan base because they know her. I'm talking about now the bigger fan base of NXT, and these people that are watching need to know her and get to know her to buy into why she is champion, because there's many reasons why she is the champion and why she deserves to be champion. You need to emotionally connect with her. And I think that especially this feud with Cora Jade's going to only uplift it more. The fact that she was at NXT is huge because it's more eyes on her. So now take those eyes that are like, oh, who is this? And shove her down their throats as to why she's the champion and why she's as good as she is. Because everyone knew Jordan had already showed up at the Rumble when she was showing up at NXT. So people already knew who she was. And by the way, her socials she's all over social media. She's everywhere. She's doing so many interviews. You know so much about Jordan already before she even showed up on NXT to know why she was a big deal. I want the same thing for Masha. I want the same thing for Tasha Steeles, Alicia Edwards, Ash by Elegance, who is also fucking amazing, who was in WWE. Like, these are girls that you should be building off of because they've been here and they are doing these things. I would love to see Indy Hartwell make her way back into TNA because she's so beloved and people miss her on their screens. I don't think you could build around Tessa because it's just too controversial. It's just too much hate. I think if you want to keep her as a heel, that's fine. Lean into it because that's the chance that she was getting at Genesis. And by the way, her skills in the ring are not the reason why she's not with these companies, because she has them.
Yes.
Like,
she's an incredible wrestler.
Incredible wrestler. Her match with Jordan was amazing. Is that someone you build a company around? Absolutely not. It's too much. It's too controversial.
I've seen interviews and she talks about, I am 100% with you, because I've seen the interviews where she's talked about making amends. I don't feel like we've seen that publicly though. I think it's one 100%. thing to say, if I'm on an interview with so-and-so, I'm having those conversations and making amends. But it doesn't seem like from the wrestling kind of world that that's what's really happening. I mean, again, we're not really having those conversations. It doesn't feel like there's anyone that's like, Tessa reached out and showed remorse and was sorry about what happened, or is it owning up to it? It feels like it's constant deflection and constant trying to just move on from it. And I don't. The wrestling of the universe does not forget quickly. Clearly, I mean, we're not. we're not going to just move on and just go, okay, she's great in the ring and we're going to enjoy that. I think that's
right.
It's a very
that's what I'm
tough
saying.
spot
Like,
to be
lean
in.
into her as a heel because that's what they're doing.
You can lean into her as a heel, I believe. But at some point, again, how many shows? Again, you're building all this positive momentum, and you're getting she's a racist chance. You do not want that on your television.
Yeah.
Television executives do not want that on their television. So
we'll see. We're going to see what happens if they continue to utilize her and use her. I don't know what kind of contract she signed. I don't know what TNA is going to do with her. I would be shocked to see her in NXT challenging anybody. Like, I don't think WWE would touch that with a 10-foot pole. But
Vince McMahon's got a new promotion coming.
Yeah.
Could be a fit for that.
I can't. Between that and football this year, I'm very much just like, what the fuck's going on in the world? But that's a whole different story because I'll say this publicly. If the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, I'm not watching the fucking Super Bowl this year. And I can't. I talked about this with AJ, and I'm already in a bad mood talking about it. But you bring up Vince McMahon, and then I get in a bad mood. So I have to talk about all the things that make me feel a certain kind of way. But that's in and of itself a whole different story. I think that there's no time better than right now for TNA and this deal with NXT to really show the legs that the Knockouts division has and to really build off of it because like we've said, they build stars and the Knockouts division literally builds stars. Like what they've done with Deanna, what they've done with Jordan. And I think that they can continue to do that. The talent is there. 1000% the talent's there. And you'll see it when you watch the Rosemarys, the Alicias, the Tashas, like they're awesome. Masha, obviously. It's there. And it's now that there's going to be new eyes on it. I just think let's get down to the emotion, to the storylines of these women for people to really want to connect with who they are and to care about them in these matches. And that's all you need to keep going. But like I said, I think Indy would be a great addition. I don't know what she's doing. I know she has her YouTube that's doing really well, and she's so beloved in the industry. And before we go to just speaking about women's wrestlers, everyone, if you can go donate to Allie Katch's GoFundMe. She had that awful injury at the GCW show. She's so beloved. She's such a great independent on the independent scene. She's so loved. She's everywhere. She's such a good, wrestler, and injuries fucking happen and it sucks.
Yeah, man.
And she broke her leg in like 2 places.
Oh,
it's one of those things.
Gruesome. No.
It was gruesome. If you saw the video, it's awful. And I think what people don't realize is GoFundMe is like people that, especially on the independent scene, like that's what they do for
There's no healthcare.
Wrestle.
No
Right.
healthcare in independent wrestling.
Right. And now that she can't, it's not only like she needs help in funds in everywhere for her to get back to recover. So any little thing helps.
We should have her on the show. We should definitely, because she's got an amazing story.
I mean, I don't know what she's going through right now. I don't want to, I'm
No.
sure it's an emotional time. I'm sure she's just trying to get her shit together and go back. But definitely we'll put a link to her GoFundMe, I think, on our YouTube as well for this.
We will.
So definitely go and donate if you can. We're all, at the end of the day, we're all a pro wrestling family and we all want good things for each other. And that's what it comes down to. So yeah, I want to end on that note. And then, we'll be back next week. Like I said, I will be at Indy. If you see me at the show or doing any kind of fun things, please say hi and be nice to me if you want. If not, it's fine. I'll just be mean right back. But nice. And then listen, if you have any other questions you want us to answer next week, it'll be a heavy Rumble prediction show, I'm sure. Maybe we'll get some guests on or something like that. We'll have some fun with it. But until then, I feel like shit because I'm definitely getting sick. Everyone is sick around me. So please, sorry if I sounded a little stuffy today or look a little puffy. It's just what happens in the world. We get through it. But please be safe. And if you are sick, feel better because everyone I know is sick right now. But yeah, have a great week, Tony. As always, it's been a pleasure. We will talk.
I'll see you in Indy.
Everyone else, be safe. Stay safe. Love you most. No backs.